Mukobeko is Zambia's biggest maximum security prison, housing some of Zambia's most dangerous men and women. They say once you enter Mukobeko, the only way you can get out is if you are discharged or you die. Escape is impossible. But on a particular day in 1973, that wasn't the case. Not one, not two, but 3 criminals escaped, one of them being one of Zambia's most notorious criminals at the time. How did that happen? This is the story of the Great Escape. It's a Sunday at Mukobeko Security Camp, a normal day, July 1st, 1973. Prisoners are working. Those that have to do their labor are doing their labor. Those that have to do their shifts are doing their shifts. But on this particular day, 3 inmates decide to do the unthinkable. They decide to escape from the camp. These 3 are Roy Mudenda, age 31, Alexander Kawongo, age 27, and Kamunga, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, his first name, age 21. The last 2 are Congolese nationals, and Roy Mudenda is from Choma. Mudenda is serving a 20-year aggravated robbery sentence, and the other 2 are serving 13-year and 20-year sentences respectively. As I mentioned earlier, on this particular day, Roy and the 2 others are on a shift. They are working in the prison and they are being supervised by Kingsong Chingombe. So the 3 are working for a while. They work for a while under his supervision, but at a certain point they decide that it's now time for them to escape. When they decide that it's time, they stab Mr. Atkinson in his pelvis, leaving him unconscious and bleeding. Of course, you know, when there's it's a 3 against 1 kind of fight, but of course before he was stabbed and left unconscious, he did put up kind of a fight, and someone in the prison, another prison warden, heard the noise and decided to go check what was happening. When he did reach the site, he found one of the prisoners, one of the 3, trying to unlock the gate. In the fight between Mr. Atkinson and the prisoners, they did disarm him and take his gun or rifle. And when Mr. Albert Mubita went to check what was happening and he found them, of course they were aware of his presence. He attempts to overpower them and they shoot him. My thought here was, I feel like his first instinct was him calling for backup, given that it's a prison and there are probably police officers and other wardens nearby. But that's just me. So the 3 managed to, of course, win the battle against both Atkinson and Albert Mubita, and then they managed to unlock. They get to the maximum prison, and they find a prison Land Rover outside the premises. When they do find it, they find a driver in the car, and they, of course, tell him to leave the car. They hold him at gunpoint and they tell him to surrender the keys and leave the car. They do escape with the prison car, which is dumb. If you ask me, they were not supposed to do that. It would have been easier if they just got a civilian car, because that's government property. Of course it's government property, and of course you're going to get caught, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So anyway, I feel like there's already 2 flaws in the system. When I read this, I noticed 2 flaws. You tell me if I'm right, guys. It's a maximum prison. Of course it's 1973, but it's a maximum prison. I feel like they are supposed to be officers and wardens guarding the gates at all times, and it's not just supposed to be 1 person supervising prisoners that are working. That's a 3 against 1 situation, and if the premises is not in tight security, why would someone supervise 3 criminals, 3 notorious criminals, by the way? Roy Mudenda was a notorious criminal at the time. Why would someone supervise 3 criminals by themselves in a prison, in a maximum prison that is not well supervised, well protected against intruders and against the prisoners themselves? That was a flaw in the system. And they really did see a way out. Okay, we move on with the story. So they hijack the Land Rover, the prison Land Rover. They drive in the Kawendola Road. Yes, but there's a police stop somewhere police, traffic police, and just they're monitoring traffic, so they're checking licenses, drivers, and all that stuff. Now, because the three are driving government property, of course, when they stop by the police roadblock, of course the police are going to notice that these people are not police officers. They are not in uniform, but they are driving a government vehicle. Of course they're going to know. And for the fact that they're driving a government vehicle, obviously, probably, reports did reach from Mukobeko, did reach other police centers and roadblocks and sites to alert them that this is what is happening. So to be honest, I wasn't very smart of the three to steal a government vehicle and a police vehicle and use it as an escape vehicle. That wasn't very smart. So of course they see the roadblock and they get nervous because they know they will get caught because they are driving government vehicle and they probably are in their criminal uniforms, in their inmate uniforms. So they speed past the roadblock. They don't stop, they don't try to lie, they just speed past it. So upon, of course, the police are going to notice, why are these people running away? So they get a civilian vehicle, like a normal vehicle, not a traffic police vehicle or whatever. They just get a normal vehicle and it turns into a high-speed chase in the Cabo Ndola road. High-speed chase in Zambia. That must have been exciting to watch, but definitely not for motorists, of course. But it turns into a high-speed chase between the police and the Land Rover containing the three criminals. In the chase, the three panic. They end up panicking and the Land Rover overturns. They did not die though. It overturned and they escaped to a nearby bush. They escaped into the bushes. Of course, it's not a bush. There's like a small village type of situation, small community type of situation, but they escape in there and they are not caught for a while. It's July 5th. A couple, the Msondas, are resting from a very productive day when they hear a knock on the door at 3 in the morning. Upon answering the door, they ask who the person is and what they want. The people at the door say they're police officers and they accuse them of housing a criminal that's been on the loose, and they request that they open the door to search their premises for the criminal that the Msondas are housing. The Msondas, of course, suspect that this can't be the police. The police can knock at our door at 3 a.m. and of course they're not housing a criminal, so they refuse to open the door. Upon refusal, the three break the door down and order the Msondas to get on their knees. Of course the three are Roy and the two other criminals. When they do get into the house, they separate the couple. One of them goes outside with Mrs. Msonda and the other two remain in the house with Mr. Msonda. They rob the couple of 100 kwacha and some clothes. Of course, they request some more clothes. But Mrs. Msonda refused to go down without a fight because she said no one is going to take her hard-earned money. So what does she do? She puts up a fight against the man that's outside with her. She struggles with the man outside with her, and because of the fighting, the man loses his gun and it drops to the ground. They continue fighting for ownership of the gun that has dropped to the ground until the gun actually ends up going off. She refused to go down. She said she would rather die. She said she'd rather die than give up her things, okay? She was ready to fight for her life. And when the criminals do escape, of course they call the police, and the police now engage in an intense search of the area in search of the criminals because they know the criminals can't be far. They rob them, as I stated, of 100 kwacha and some clothes. At the time, 100 kwacha was a lot of, it's the 1970s. 100,000 kwacha is a lot of money. It's a whole lot of money, and that's why Mrs. Msonda put up a fight, because the value of 100 kwacha now and 100 kwacha then is not the same. It's not the same. In the search for the three in Kapiri, Bosch and surrounding areas, the police also enlist the help of paramilitary platoons to search for the three because they are highly dangerous criminals. The police also put up a general alert to the public that they are criminals, especially the public in Kapiri and Cabo areas, to alert them the fact that they are criminals on the loose and they need to stay inside and lock their doors and not open the doors to strangers. The two Congolese nationals, Kabongo and Kabunda, are caught by villagers just near the Msonda's residence in a nearby farm where they were hiding. I guess the three decided to separate at the time so that it's not easy for them to get caught. The two Congolese nationals went their way and Roy also went his way. The two are caught by local by the villagers, not the police, by the villagers in a nearby farm where they were hiding. Of course, it's good news for them, and the police pounce on them immediately. Roy was the one that was a problem to catch, and he was also the most dangerous of the three. He's eventually caught after some time, and he's sent back to Mikoko prison camp. After being sent back to the camp, he goes to trial and is sentenced to death by hanging, and that is how Roy met his fate. Roy was one of the most notorious criminals at the time, and his crimes included aggravated robbery, assault, rape of women, and murder. So it was good news for the police in general, and also the state at the time, to have finally caught up with the criminal that was causing so much havoc. Alright, that's the end of the story. I know it's short because information is scarce. I hope you guys did enjoy the story. Like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you think of the story. Do you think it would have been possible if Mukobeko was supervised properly, like a maximum prison should? You know how when you watch crime documentaries or just movies in general, you know how maximum prisoners are? They're like police in tall buildings, at the gate, the cameras. Do you think that would have happened if Mukobeko was manned correctly at the time that Roy and Kabungo and the other guy escaped from prison? Tell me what you think in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Like, comment, subscribe, share with a friend, and I'll see you.